Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video in SQL Server. In last video, we have seen what is the TCL and DCL. In TCL, we have seen how we can begin a transaction and how we can roll back that and commit those transactions in your tables. So today we are going to learn about what are the save points in transaction and how we can execute the try catch statements in those transactions. So let's get into the SSMS and see them is with a live example. So I have connected to my SQL Server Management Studio. Let's get into our database, create a new query window. So now let me create a fresh table, create table, employee, I need the ID column integer, name, varchar, and salary column as decimal of 10,2. Okay, now let's create this table. So now let's insert some records inside our employee table. Let's say insert into employee values, comma, name, and then salary. Let's give 50,000 salary, and for the next employee let's give 65,000. Third employee let's give 77,000. And another employee, that's 56,000. So now let's execute the statement. 4 rows got affected. Let's select the employees. So in my employee table, I have the ID, name, and salary of the employees. So now I need to update the employee with ID 2, his salary from 65,000 to 70,000. So we can use the transaction to avoid any errors or misvalues in our query while running. So let's begin the transaction. Let us give the update statement. Update employee, set the salary is equal to 70,000, where the ID equal to 2. So now let me begin this transaction. So there is a command, there is a function in SQL Server which you can use to identify how many transaction is being processed in your current session. You can specify the tran count to find how many transaction is being processed in your current session. So currently I have one transaction which is in progress. I haven't committed this or even roll back this. So we can use the save point to save the transaction values up to certain points. Let's say for example I have provided this update command inside this transaction. Now I am going to save this transaction with the name, say for example SavePoint 1. So now let me execute this statement. After executing this, still the transaction is being in process. I am going to update the salary for the employee number 3 as 75,000, therefore 80,000. So now let's select and see the employees table. The ID number 2 has been updated with the salary 70,000. Still the ID number 3 employee is at 77,000. Now let me execute this update statement. Now one row got affected. Now let's select and see the employees table. You got 70,000 salary for the employee number 2 and 80,000 salary for the employee number 3. So now I have provided these details. I have entered this statement as a wrong one, but I have entered this employee number 2 with the salary 70,000 is the correct one. So now I roll back the transaction. Only the update statement with ID 3 will be rolled back because we have used the save point for this transaction. So let me execute this rollback statement now. So commands executed successfully. Let's check this. Select star from employees. So I have provided simply the rollback. We need to perform let's say rollback transaction to the save point 1. So now let me execute this rollback statement. The commands which are under the save transaction to this rollback statement will got rollback, and these commands will not be updated. Now let's select and see this value. The employee 2 has 70,000 salary and employee 3 with 80,000 salary. When I perform this rollback action, commands executed successfully, you can see the first update statement is being in process and the second statement has been rolled back because we have provided the save point before this update, after this update statement. So we have provided to roll back the transaction until the save point 1. So whatever the query we have written inside after the save point 1 will be rolled back, and still the transaction is in being process. So when I use the commit transaction, this transaction will be committed. So now let's select and see the employees. The employee with ID 2 has got 70,000 salary. So we can use the save point to specify the rollback actions. If you can specify multiple save points and you can perform the rollback action up to that. If you provide the save point transaction level 2 here, up to this point you can give as save point 2. So if you perform any operations after this, let's say you have performed another update statement here for the id number 4 as 1 lakh, you can use the save point 2, and if you roll back this activity, the transaction until save point 2 will be in progress, and the update or any statements after the save point 2 will be rolled back. So there is also another function in SQL Server which you can use to roll back all the activities when the transaction ends up in an error statement. So if you get an runtime error while executing a transaction, you can set the exact abort on. So if you provide this, whenever a statement inside your transaction has been ended up in some error, so this statement will automatically aborts the transaction and it will roll back to the normal state, and none of the transactions will be committed, everything will be rolled back. So you can use the set exact abort on to perform the rollback action if your transaction will gone through an error. You can use the save point to save certain queries up to a range, and you can roll back by using the save point name. It will be helpful for you in many situations where you can specify the save point name and perform the rollback actions for your transactions. So you can use the try and catch statement to safely execute your transaction process. Let's say, for example, let me give the begin try statement, and let me provide the begin transaction. Begin transaction, and let's perform an operation inside this, and let me commit this transaction. Let me provide the end try and complete this try block and begin the catch block. The catch block will be executed if the try block fails. So we can provide the try count greater than 0, then begin rollback, transaction, roll back the transaction, and let's end this if statement, and let's end the catch statement. In this I have provided to try this transaction. So I have provided the begin transaction and commit transaction. In this example I have provided only one statement and only one transaction. So what if I provided multiple transactions? So let's for example, I have provided one transaction here and forget about this try block statement. Without using the commit transaction, I have behind the transaction. This will end up that there is a transaction which is being processed and is not committed. So only these two transactions will be committed, because after executing these two transactions we have performed the commit transaction. So this transaction is being in processed. It is neither rollback or nor committed. So what if I enclosed all these statements inside a stored procedure and executed this stored procedure activity? So in such cases, this try catch will be useful for us. So it will try to execute all the statements, and in the catch block I have provided, if the transaction count is greater than 0, begin and end up with a rollback transaction. So now it will check that while executing this transaction, it will show a transaction count as 1, and after executing this transaction, the transaction count will be 2, and while executing this commit statement, the transaction again turns to 0. And we have another transaction command after this commit statement. So after executing this transaction, it will be turns to 1. So in the catch block we have provided, if the transaction count is greater than 0, begin the rollback. So we have provided the catch statement. This transaction will be automatically rolled back, because we have provided if the transaction count greater than 0. So by using this try catch statement, you can handle the errors that can be happened in your transactions. So we have seen what is the function to find how many transactions is being processed in your session, and what is the exact abort function, and how you can use the save points to save certain transaction commands, and roll back by using the save point name, and how you can avoid errors by handling it with the try and catch statement. So I hope you understand the save points and try catch statements in transaction in the SQL Server. So let me provide the GitHub link where you can find the solution and also the exercise for today's session. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and watch all the videos in the SQL Server playlist. Thank you.